Hello, this is Yara here. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 meta decks of September 2023. I have been going to regionals. I have been playing on Dueling Book every single day. I have been paying attention to the meta, looking at Excel sheets of what decks top what tournaments like regionals, locals, case events, and everything. And I've been paying attention to what decks I've been topping a lot. So I have narrowed it down to the top 5 meta decks of the current meta. So as always, guys, if you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, please make sure to do that. It helps a lot with this channel. So yeah, let's get started. In our top 5 we have Rocket Tracer, aka Dragon Link. Dragon Link is a strong deck, right? They're able to basically OTK you can't really give them a turn because they can break almost any board, because they play the Dark Charmer, they play stuff like Unicorn, Access Code, they play the Burrowland, they play Savage, they play Chaos, Levineer, they play Magnamud, which if you play a light or dark deck, they will take advantage of you because they play basically a whole lot of Bestials, Druid Swarm, Magnamud, you name it, right? So good luck playing a light or dark deck versus Dragon Link, right? Dragon Link is a force to be reckoned with. They're good at going first. They're good at going second. They can play a lot of non-engine, so they're very, very good. They play cards like Nibiru, Veiler, those light attribute hand traps. They play also stuff like Diddy Crow, Phantasme. They play everything in between. They even play they play Gamma with the new Red Eyes monster that they're able to send driver from deck. So they have a lot of different builds. So Dragon Link is one of those decks that you have to be ready to face, and that's why I have Dragon Link as the number 5 deck. And now for the number 4 deck, we have Labyrinth. Labyrinth has won Worlds. They've won a regional recently. They've topped multiple events. I mean, this deck can tutor out Eradicator turn 1. They can set D barrier with Lady Labyrinth. I mean, this deck is scary. Almost no deck wants to face this deck because they have the ability to be able to set whatever normal trap card in the game with Lady Labyrinth, and if they have Kuklok in hand, they can actually activate that same trap card that same turn, which is pretty broken. I actually made a video on why Kuklok deserves to be banned if you look at the previous video before this one. So yeah, Labyrinth is a scary deck. Trap cards plus being able to play stuff like Extravagance or Prosperity for consistency reasons. They can play hand traps as well. Kuklok, it's such an insane card, being allowing you to activate trap cards at the same turn. This deck is a scary deck, so that's why I have Labyrinth as the number 4 deck. So as the top 3 deck, I have Unchained, the deck. So this deck basically doesn't care if you destroy the card, right? Even if you destroy the cards like by Raigeki, Dark Hole, or anything, it doesn't matter. All their cards basically trigger when something gets destroyed on the field, or if they get destroyed on the field. So this deck has a lot of starters. They can play Prosperity for maximum consistency. They have like 15 non-engine slots where they can play stuff like hand traps, board breakers. They have a lot of room for non-engine stuff. So this is one of the new decks that people don't know what it does, but it's been topping left and right. I mean, just basically top 8 every single time, like multiple slots in top 8. Unchained is a scary deck that if you don't know what it does, it's gonna catch you by surprise, because they don't really care about getting their stuff destroyed, right? The new card Yama, which you're looking at on the screen right now, is an insane card that the deck so desperately needed, and I think this card alone is what's putting them on the map, and that's why you have to be ready for Unchained, and that's why I have Unchained as the number 3 deck. So now for the number 2 deck, I have Pearly. Pearly going first wants to set up a beefy Nor. Nor is a unaffected towers that's able to quick effect put stuff at the bottom of the deck by detaching 2 cards from itself. It's so so hard to get rid of a Nor because sometimes they at the same time they have the field spelled and they have my friend Pearly, the continuous spell that even if you're somehow able to get rid of the Nor by like tributing it with the kaiju or something similar, they're gonna get so much follow up with the field spell or with my friend Pearly. They're gonna be able to add multiple spells from the graveyard to their hand or special summon something from deck or graveyard. And that's when they get to go first. But when they get to go second, they're able to play the Happiness XYZ, which is pretty insane. Able to add multiple spells from the deck to their hand, being able to OTK through. If you set up a board with monsters, they're gonna OTK you with Happiness, and if they don't see a way to OTK, they can set up a beefy Zeus with multiple sands, or they can set up a beefy Nor going second, while at the same time outing every single card on your board by either attaching it to one of their XYZs or just getting rid of it with Nor. I mean, this deck is going first or going second. The only real way to beat this deck is with something like Dimensional Barrier, where they don't have a way to make XYZs. I mean, this deck is a powerhouse. That's why we've been seeing this deck top multiple times. It's one of those decks that's more than likely gonna get hit on the next ban list, but you gotta be ready to face Pearly, because if you're not ready, it's just gonna catch you by surprise. So that's why I have Pearly as the number 2 deck. And before we get to the number 1 deck, I have some honorable mentions. So one of the first honorable mentions is Flounderies. Flounderies recently won first place at a regional. Flounderies, it's a powerhouse. I remember recently I was on Dueling Book on high rated, and I was facing a Flounderies deck. I had a broken hand going second against him. I was like, for sure I'm gonna win. Multiple hand traps, multiple board breakers, but they have a little card called Harpy's Feather Storm, which makes it so your opponent cannot activate any monster effects for the rest of the turn. So even with that broken hand that I drew going second, they were able to beat me because of Harpy's Feather Storm, which, why is that card still legal? They can utilize it so well. All they need is a winged beast monster on the field to be able to activate that card, and you're basically gonna lose that game, right? So they can play blowout cards like Harpy's Feather Storm that I was just talking about. They can also play Dimensional Shifter, which a lot of decks just really can't play through. So this deck has a lot of blowout cards. We're talking about they can main deck evenly, Dark Ruler, Shifter, Harpy's Feather Storm, and Thrust is so good in that deck because even if you draw them, Thrust can still set something from the deck. So they can set the Dreaming Town, or they can set Unexplored Winds. So Flounderies is a scary deck that you have to be ready to face if you want to take competitive Yu-Gi-Oh seriously. So that's why I have Flounderies in the honorable mentions. And then I also have Rescue Ace. Rescue Ace is one of the new decks that people don't know what it does. It's basically the best deck in the OCG in the moment, even beating decks like Pearly or Tira in the OCG. Rescue Ace is able to set up multiple back row cards, 4 back row cards with Turbulence. Impulse is a very good card when you get to go second. I mean, a lot of people don't know what this deck does. They have multiple builds. They can even end up on some sprite monsters with the link that's able to change levels. They can change a level to level 2, then they can go into gigantic sprite and go into like blue carrot, protecting them from stuff like evenly match. So if you don't know what Rescue Ace, I would recommend you to just test this deck out on Dueling Book, or if you know a friend that has the cards in real life, you can borrow it from them. But you're gonna want to know what this deck does, because if you don't, you're just gonna end up losing against it. So that's why I have Rescue Ace as an honorable mention. So you may be wondering what deck, after all those scary decks, is better than all those decks. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't think this deck is like the best deck by a long mile, like kind of like Tier Limit was, but I do think it's undoubtedly the best deck. And the only reason it hasn't been topping a lot is only because people are bored of the deck, right? They're bored of the deck. And if you haven't already guessed, that is Tira. A lot of people have been not using this deck as much. I mean, they still have it in their house, just saving it for like a big event like a YCS or something similar to that. But people are trying out new decks. That's why you haven't been seeing this deck top as much as you would expect it to. But don't let that fool you. I mean, this deck is still as strong as ever. I mean, we're talking about a Rice Heart, a Macrocosmos, Unicorn, Fenrir. I mean, all these cards are scary because even if you draw them, if they end up on like a Fenrir and a Unicorn, I mean, they're able to rip out multiple cards from your extra deck, being able to banish multiple cards face down with Fenrir. I mean, this deck is very, very good. I mean, they can play a lot of prosperity targets. Good if they can play a lot of level 3 hand traps like Bell, Ash, being able to go into Baron, then activate Birth, special summon out Fenrir or Unicorn, and then combo off from there. So they can even play stuff like Eradicator, Epidemic Virus. So Kashira, I do think is the best deck. So I mean, if you don't know what Kashira does, then I don't know what game you're playing, because you have to know what Kashira does, because I mean, it's been winning the most events out of any other deck. So Kashira is still the number one deck. But uh, do you guys agree with my list? I want to know in the comments below. As always, guys, this was Yara here, and I will catch you on the next video. Take care.